night my neighbor's Ring camera clip hit our group chat, I saw my fiance's mother slip a manila envelope into my purse, and I stayed quiet while something in me cracked. Why would she do that, and why did my fiance look more terrified than surprised? My name is Hadley, I am 28, and I work as a patient coordinator at a dental office outside Philadelphia. I am the kind of woman who color codes grocery lists and sends thank you cards. I am also the kind of woman who notices when a smile looks practiced. It started with something normal, a Sunday dinner, the kind Americans know by heart. A crowded kitchen, a casserole dish sweating on the counter, a football game murmuring from the living room, everyone talking over each other like love is a competition. Lorelai, my fiance, Rhodes's mom, hugged me too tight. Her perfume was heavy, sweet, the kind that clings to fabric. She kept touching my arm, my shoulder, like she needed to confirm I was real. Rhodes hovered behind her, tall and polite, with that calm face he used when patients at my office cried in the chair, and I needed him to act steady. Only this time his eyes kept checking the front window. Halfway through dinner, Rhodes's sister, Sloane, flashed her phone at me from across the table. A group chat, neighborhood watch, a short clip from a Ring camera, a shadowy figure on a porch, someone slipping something through a mail slot. Sloane mouthed, "Look." I leaned in, smiling like I was just admiring baby photos. The porch in the video was familiar. White railing, a chipped planter, Lorelai's front steps, and the figure in the clip was not a stranger. It was Lorelai. The camera caught her from the side as she walked up to her own door like she was sneaking into someone else's life. She looked straight into the lens like she knew exactly where it was. And then she slid a manila envelope through the mail slot. Her hand hesitated for a beat. Then she pressed her palm flat against the door, like she was apologizing to the wood, and walked away fast. I looked up slowly. Lorelai was laughing at something Rhodes's dad said, but her laugh didn't reach her eyes. Rhodes's fork froze halfway to his mouth. He had seen the clip too. My stomach went cold. I told myself it was nothing. Some legal paperwork, some weird errand. But then Lorelai stood up carrying a stack of plates, and as she passed behind my chair, I felt the smallest tug at my purse strap. A whisper of paper, a weight that was not there before. I did not move. I did not look. I stayed quiet. I took a long sip of water, like my mouth wasn't suddenly dry. Rhodes caught my eye. His expression was a request and a warning at the same time. Please do not right now. I smiled at him the way women smile when they want to be believed. After dinner, everyone migrated to the living room. Rhodes's dad turned the volume up. Sloane sprawled across the couch and kicked her feet onto the coffee table like she owned it. Lorelai kept busy, wiping counters that were already clean. Rhodes leaned down near my ear and said, "Softly, can we leave early?" His voice sounded normal, but his hand was shaking where it rested on the back of my chair. "Are you okay?" I asked in the same tone I used on nervous patients. He swallowed. "Yeah, just tired." That was the thing about Rhodes. He always wanted to be the calmest person in the room, even when he was the reason the room felt dangerous. On the drive home, the heater rattled and the headlights washed the road in pale light. Rhodes gripped the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him from tipping over. I kept my voice gentle. "Your mom put something in my purse." His knuckles went whiter. "Did she?" He said like he didn't hear me. "I felt it," I said. "And I saw her in that camera clip." He exhaled, long and slow, like his body had been holding its breath for weeks. "It's not what you think," he said. "That line is never followed by anything good." I stared out the window. I did not argue. I did not accuse. I just asked one small question, calm as glass. "Then what do I think?" Rhodes's jaw tightened. "Hadley, please." The way he said my name sounded like a lock turning. When we got home, he went straight to the bathroom and ran the sink. Water, loud enough to cover a conversation or a breakdown. I sat on the edge of the bed with my purse in my lap. My heart was steady, but my hands were not. I opened it. The envelope was thick, heavy like a folder of secrets. No stamp, no address, just my name, handwritten in shaky letters, Hadley. Inside were copies, not originals. That mattered. A deed, a property record, a loan statement, and a printed email chain. The deed showed Rhodes's name and Lorelai's name, tied to an address I did not recognize. A small house in a nearby town. The loan statement had a balance that made my throat tighten. The email chain was between Rhodes and someone listed as a private investigator. Subject line, follow up as promised. I kept reading until my eyes blurred. It talked about me, my workplace, my daily schedule, a picture of my car in the parking lot behind the dental office, a screenshot from my social media from a story I posted months ago where Rhodes had laughed and kissed my cheek, except the email called it useful timing. I felt my face go hot, then cold, then numb. I heard the bathroom water stop. Rhodes was still inside, but now the apartment was quiet enough that I could hear my own breathing. I could have stormed in. I could have screamed. I could have thrown the papers at him like confetti from a ruined wedding. Instead, I slid everything back into the envelope and put it exactly how I found it. Then I set it on my nightstand like it belonged there. When Rhodes came out, he looked like someone who had practiced a smile in the mirror and failed. He sat beside me on the bed, close but not touching, like my skin might burn him. "You opened it," he said. I nodded. "Yes." His throat bobbed. "I can explain." I waited. Silence is a powerful thing. People talk just to fill it. He started with the wrong detail. "My mom shouldn't have put that in your purse," he said. I looked at him. "That's what you're worried about?" He blinked like he hadn't planned for that. "It looks bad," he said, "but it's not like I was trying to hurt you. You hired someone to watch me," I said, quiet. He flinched. "Only for a little while." A laugh tried to rise in my chest and died before it could reach my mouth. "Why?" I asked. He stared at his hands. "Because I needed to be sure." "Sure of what?" He pressed his lips together. "That you weren't like the last one." The last one. He had never mentioned a last one. I felt something sharp move behind my ribs. Not jealousy, something worse. Realizing I was living inside a story I never agreed to. Rhodes finally looked at me. His eyes were wet, but that did not soften what he said next. "My mom thought you were too perfect," he whispered. "She said no one is that kind without a reason." I held his gaze. "So you decided to investigate me." He nodded once, like a confession, like he wanted credit for honesty. "I told myself it was protective," he said. "My dad always says trust is earned, and after what happened before, his voice cracked. I didn't want to be stupid again. I thought about the pictures in that email. My car, my job, my life turned into evidence. I thought about Lorelai's hug. Too tight, too long. I thought about the envelope in my purse, like a planted weapon. I swallowed down the urge to cry because crying felt like giving him something. "Did your mom tell you to do it?" I asked. He hesitated. Just a heartbeat, but it was enough. That little pause was twist number one. "No," he said too fast. "She didn't tell me." I nodded slowly like I accepted it. Then I asked my second calm question, softer than the first. "Why is her name on the deed, Rhodes?" He froze. His eyes flicked to the nightstand, to the envelope, to my face. His mouth opened, then closed. And in that moment, I understood something ugly. The investigator was not the only secret in that envelope. There was a house I had never seen, a loan I had never heard about, my name on an envelope like I was being drafted into a plan. Rhodes' phone buzzed on the bed between us. The screen lit up with a text preview from Mom. It said, "Did she open it?" Rhodes grabbed the phone too fast. I did not reach for it. I did not need to. My stomach turned, not with panic, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that feels like stepping into cold air after being in a room full of smoke. I stood up and said calm, "I'm going to take a shower." Rhodes looked relieved, like he thought my calm meant forgiveness. That was twist number 2, because my calm did not mean that. In the bathroom, I locked the door. I sat on the closed toilet lid, fully dressed, and stared at the tile. My hands finally started shaking hard. I did not cry. Not yet. I pulled my phone out. I opened my camera roll. I quietly took pictures of every page inside that envelope. One by one, slow, steady, clear. Then, I opened my notes app and wrote down the date of the dinner, the time, the ring video, the text preview I saw on Rhodes' phone, and every detail my body was trying to memorize. Speak less. Save proof. When I came out, Rhodes was waiting on the couch with a blanket folded neatly, like he thought comfort could erase betrayal. He patted the cushion beside him. "Please sit." I sat, not close, just close enough. He started talking fast now, trying to outrun the silence. "The house isn't mine," he said. "Not really. It's for my mom." I blinked. "For your mom? She's in trouble," he whispered. "Financial trouble. She didn't want anyone to know. She's always been proud." I stared at him. "So she put her name on a deed with yours, and she took a loan." He nodded. His face looked genuinely scared now. "And that might have worked on someone who had not just been watched like a suspect. She said the only way out was to refinance," he said. "But the bank wouldn't do it with just her income, so she used my name." And then she started talking about our future. My throat tightened. Our future. Rhodes' eyes dropped. She said once we were married, everything would be easier. Combined finances, better approval, more stability. The room felt too small. I kept my voice even. "So the plan was to marry me and then what? Have me sign something?" He shook his head quickly. "No, I swear. I would never make you sign anything without telling you." He said it like it was a compliment. My anger rose, clean and sharp, but I held it down like a lit match between my fingers. Twist number 3 was not what he said. It was what he did. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a second envelope, smaller, white. "I was going to give this to you next week," he said, voice trembling. "I planned it. I wanted it to be special." He held it out like a peace offering. Inside, I already knew, was an invitation, a meeting, a signature line. I did not take it. I looked at it, then at him, and I said the simplest word in the world. "Okay." Rhodes exhaled, relieved again, like okay meant I would go along. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed a glass of water so my hands had something to hold. I said, still calm, "I need air. I'm going for a drive." Rhodes followed me to the door. "Hadley, please don't make this bigger than it is." I turned and I smiled at him. Not a warm smile, a precise one. "I won't," I said. Then I walked out with my keys, my phone, and every screenshot already backed up. And I drove straight to the one person Rhodes and Lorelai never thought I would contact. The private investigator. Quick real life pause. When I'm editing these late at night, I get tired, and your comments are what keep me going. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me your city, state, or country. All right, now let me take you back. I parked a block away from a small office building with frosted glass windows. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might show on my skin. I sat there for a moment, breathing through my nose like my therapist once taught me, and I reminded myself of the rule I always followed at work. Panic makes mistakes. Calm gets answers. I walked inside, gave my name at the front desk, and asked if I could speak to the man from the emails. The receptionist looked at me, then at my hands, like she could tell I was holding myself together with invisible tape. She made a call. Then she nodded and pointed down a hallway. I stepped toward a door that was slightly open, and I heard a familiar voice inside, low and tense, saying my name like I was a problem to solve. Not Rhodes' voice, Lorelai's. The door was cracked just enough for sound to spill out, and I stood there like my body had turned into a wall. Lorelai's voice was sweet, controlled. "You told me you'd be careful." "She's not stupid," a man answered, calm and professional. "I was careful. Your son wanted certainty. You wanted leverage." Lorelai gave a small laugh that made my stomach twist. "I wanted protection." "There's a difference." "Protection," the man repeated, like he'd heard that word 1,000 times from people doing ugly things with clean hands. My fingers went numb around the strap of my purse. I could have walked in and exploded. I could have demanded answers. I could have made a scene in a hallway full of strangers and fluorescent lights. Instead, I stayed quiet. I leaned closer just enough to hear everything. Lorelai said, "Did you pull her employment file?" I asked for the basics only. The man sighed. "I pulled what was publicly accessible and what your son authorized. Background checks, social media, vehicle information, basic surveillance." Lorelai's tone sharpened. "And the pictures, the parking lot. That was too far. You can't ask for proof and then act offended by proof," the man said. "Rhodes was the one who wanted timestamps." My throat tightened. Timestamps. Like my life was a delivery package. Lorelai paused, then said quieter, "Fine, but what matters is that we have what we need. If she walks, we're done." The man didn't answer right away. I heard papers shuffle. Then he said the sentence that made my blood go cold. "You're not done. You still have options. You just need her signature." I felt like I was going to throw up right there in the hallway. Lorelai's voice softened again, syrupy. "Exactly. That's why I'm asking you to help me guide this. I need her to feel safe. I need her to feel chosen." I pressed my palm against the wall to steady myself. My mind tried to make it less horrifying by translating it into softer language. Maybe she was talking about a prenup. Maybe she was talking about wedding paperwork. But I knew what that deed looked like. I knew what the loan statement meant. I knew what a manila envelope in my purse meant. It meant I was being moved around like furniture. The man said, "If you want advice, my advice is simple. Stop touching her belongings. Stop putting things in her bag. It escalates," Lorelai huffed. "I did that because my son won't act. He's in love. He gets sentimental. He needs a push." "A push," the man echoed again. Lorelai lowered her voice. "Do not judge me. You do not understand what she did to him before." The man replied, "I'm not judging. I'm billing." Lorelai made a sharp sound. "You know what I mean. The last woman, the humiliation, the money, the lies." My heart hammered. So it was real. A last woman. A story Rhodes never told me, except in that vague way people talk about storms they swear they survived. But the more Lorelai talked, the more I realized something. She wasn't describing Rhodes's pain. She was describing a fear of losing control. The man said, "Rhodes is an adult." Lorelai snapped, "Rhodes is my son." There it was. Simple, possessive, absolute. I exhaled slowly through my nose. I felt my anger sharpen into something cleaner than rage. Focus. I pulled my phone out, turned my screen brightness down, and started a voice memo. I held it by my thigh, hidden, and I let it record through the crack in the door. more. I didn't need everything. I just needed enough, Lorelai continued. The house has to stay in the family. That is non-negotiable. If she marries him, she becomes part of the family and she helps. That's how it works. The man said, that's not how the law works. Lorelai replied, then tell me what does. The man's chair creaked. The clean route is disclosure and consent. The messy route is manipulation. You're asking for messy. Lorelai didn't deny it. She said, I'm asking for survival. My stomach clenched. People always wrap greed in the language of survival. It makes them feel brave instead of cruel. The man said, if you go messy and she finds out you lose her, you might lose your son too. Lorelai's voice dropped into something almost tender. He won't leave me. He's loyal. He's always been loyal. That sentence told me more about Rhodes than any love speech ever could. I took 2 silent steps backward, away from the door, away from her voice, away from the part of me that still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. My voice memo was still recording. I stopped it, saved it, and sent it to a private cloud folder I kept for important documents at work. Then I did something that surprised even me. I straightened my shoulders. I made my face calm, and I walked right into the room. Lorelai was sitting in a chair like she owned it. Her purse was on her lap, both hands folded over it like a sermon pose. Across from her, at a desk, sat a man in a button-down shirt with tired eyes and a neutral expression. They both looked up. Lorelai's face shifted through 3 emotions so fast, I almost admired the speed. Shock, calculation, then a fake smile that tried to land as warmth. Hadley, she said, too bright. What are you doing here? I let the door click shut behind me. I looked at the man first. Are you the one who wrote the emails? His eyes flicked to Lorelai, then back to me. I'm the investigator, yes. Lorelai rose halfway from her chair. This is a misunderstanding. I nodded once. Okay. That word again. Okay. It made people comfortable. It made them sloppy. I stepped closer to the desk. I kept my tone gentle, almost polite. I'm not here to scream. I'm here to ask one small question. Lorelai's eyes narrowed. The skin around her smile tightened. The investigator's posture changed, like a professional recognizing a situation that could go legal. I asked, did Rhodes hire you or did Lorelai? Lorelai said quickly, Rhodes hired him. The investigator didn't answer right away. That pause was everything. I turned slightly and looked directly at him. I'm asking you, not her. He swallowed. Rhodes signed the authorization. I nodded like that was fine. And who paid you? Lorelai's voice snapped. Hadley, this is inappropriate. I looked at her and smiled softly. I'm being very appropriate. I'm asking questions. The investigator cleared his throat. Payment came from a joint account. A joint account, I repeated. Lorelai's eyes widened just a fraction. Too late. I tilted my head. A joint account between you and Rhodes. Lorelai's smile trembled. He's my son. Of course we have accounts. It's normal. I let a small silence stretch. The investigator shifted in his chair, uncomfortable. Then I said, calm as paper. So you paid to watch me. Lorelai lifted her chin. I paid to protect my family. I nodded again. Okay. Lorelai leaned forward like she wanted to pull me into her version of reality. Hadley, you don't understand what we've been through. Rhodes was manipulated before. He was almost ruined. I'm trying to keep him safe. I didn't argue. I didn't say she was lying. I didn't call her names. I just reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I opened the photo folder and turned the screen so the investigator could see the deed and the loan statement. Lorelai's breath caught. I asked the investigator, are these the documents you advised them to use? The investigator's eyes widened. He looked at Lorelai fast, then at me. I didn't advise anyone to use anything, he said. I'm not an attorney. Lorelai snapped. He's twisting this. I kept my voice soft. Am I? The investigator leaned back, hands slightly raised. Miss, I do investigative services. Information gathering. That's it? I nodded like I believed him. Then this shouldn't be hard. You can answer one more question. Lorelai's fingers tightened around her purse strap. Her knuckles went pale. I asked, what exactly were you hired to find that justified surveillance and timestamps? The investigator's mouth tightened. He glanced at Lorelai again. Lorelai cut in. It was just to confirm she wasn't hiding anything. That's all. I looked at him. Is that all? He hesitated, then said, there were concerns about financial motivations. Financial motivations. I felt heat climb up my neck. Humiliation mixing with anger so sharply it almost made me dizzy. Lorelai watched me like she expected me to break. I didn't. I breathed in slowly, then out. Then I said, thank you. Lorelai blinked. What? I turned to the investigator. You don't have to answer anything else. You've already helped me. The investigator frowned. Helped you? I nodded. You confirmed something I needed confirmed. Lorelai stepped forward, voice hard now. Hadley, you're being dramatic. I smiled at her, still calm. No, I'm being accurate. Lorelai's face flushed. If you love Rhodes, you'll talk to him. You'll fix this like an adult. I tilted my head. I am an adult. That's why I'm not yelling. Lorelai's eyes flashed. So what are you going to do? Threaten us? I held her gaze and answered honestly. I'm going to do exactly what you wanted, I said quietly. I'm going to follow the rules perfectly. Lorelai's brows drew together. What does that mean? I picked up my purse. I stepped toward the door. I kept my voice gentle enough that it almost sounded kind. It means I'm going to let you keep believing I'm safe, I said. So you get comfortable. Lorelai's mouth opened, but no words came out. The investigator's eyes followed me, cautious. As I reached for the doorknob, I added one more calm sentence directed at him, not her. If you ever feel uneasy about what you've been asked to do, remember that I have copies of everything, I said. And I take very good notes. His face went still. He understood me. Lorelai didn't. I walked out of the office building and into cold air that felt like freedom. In my car, I sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel, heart racing. My phone buzzed. A call from Rhodes. I let it ring. It buzzed again. A text. Where are you? I stared at the screen, then typed one word. Okay, then. I drove to the only place that would make Lorelai panic without me ever raising my voice. My office, not because I wanted to hide, because patient coordinators know paperwork. We know contracts. We know how to read what people hope you will not read. We know which questions to ask to make the right person take you seriously. I walked into the quiet building, nodded at the security guard who knew me, and went straight to my desk. I logged into the computer system and opened a blank document. I titled it Notes. Then I began writing everything: the deed, the loan, the email chain, the ring video, the joint account, the phrase timestamps. My hands stopped shaking as I typed. My mind became a blade. When I finished, I saved it to a secure folder. Then I opened another tab and searched for a family law attorney who handled financial coercion and fraud. I didn't call yet. Not yet. First, I did the quietest revenge move of all. I pulled up Rose's calendar invite that had been sitting in my email for weeks. A meeting with a lender. A meeting I thought was about our future home. Now I understood it was about Lorelai's. I clicked, forwarded it to myself in a separate email, and saved it with the rest of the proof. Then I texted Rhodes again. Okay, I will come home. We will talk. And as soon as I hit send, my phone buzzed with a new message from Lorelai. I am on my way to you. I stared at the screen, pulse steady now, because she thought she was coming to control the story. But I had already written the next chapter. Lorelai arrived at my office office faster than I thought she could. I saw her through the glass doors before she even stepped inside. Coat buttoned wrong, hair too perfect, face set in that polite panic people wear when they are trying to look harmless. I stayed at my desk. I did not run. I did not hide. I did not warn anyone. I just kept typing. When she walked up to the front counter, her smile appeared like a mask snapping into place. "Hi," she said to the receptionist, voice sweet. "I'm looking for Hadley." My coworker glanced back at me. I gave her a small nod. It was nothing dramatic. Just a quiet message that said it's fine. Lorelai approached my desk like she owned the air around it. She leaned in and lowered her voice. "What are you doing?" I looked up slowly. I let my face stay calm. "Working." Her eyes flicked to my computer screen, then away, too fast. She tried to laugh. "Hadley, be serious." I placed my hands flat on the desk so she could see they were steady. "I am serious." Lorelai's nostrils flared. She sat in the chair across from me without asking, like we were in a family meeting and she was the chairperson. "You went to that investigator. Why would you do that?" I tilted my head slightly. "Because you put a folder in my purse." Lorelai's smile tightened. "That was a mistake." "No," I said quietly. "That was a decision." Her eyes sharpened. "You're upset. I get it. But you're making this bigger than it needs to be." I nodded once. "Okay." That word again. It landed like a soft pillow over her alarm, and I watched her relax by half an inch. Lorelai leaned forward, voice dropping into a practiced warmth. "Let's be honest. You love my son. He loves you. We all want the same thing. A stable future. A home. Security." I kept my voice gentle. "Then why did you need leverage?" Her mouth opened and closed, and for a second her mask slipped. Then she recovered. "I don't know what you think you heard, but people say things out of context." I leaned back and looked at her with calm attention, the way I looked at patients when they tried to hide pain. "You're right. Context matters." Lorelai's eyes narrowed. "Exactly." I reached into my drawer and pulled out a printed copy of the calendar invite. I placed it on the desk between us. Lorelai's gaze dropped to it. "Why do you have that?" I slid a second paper out. A printed screenshot from Rhodes's email chain. The subject line, the investigator's name, the phrase about timestamps. Lorelai's lips parted. Her fingers twitched like she wanted to snatch it. She didn't. She was trying to stay elegant, I said, still calm. "I'm going to the meeting with the lender." Lorelai stiffened. "No, you're not." I smiled softly. "Yes, I am." Her voice rose just a little. Not loud enough to draw attention, but sharp enough to show her real self. "Hadley, that meeting is private." I nodded. "It's about me too. You wanted my signature. That means you already brought me into it." Lorelai's jaw clenched. "You don't understand how financing works." I held her gaze. "I understand consent." For a moment, she just stared at me, and I could see her calculating. She was deciding which version of herself would work best. The loving mother, the wounded protector, the polite stranger. She chose threat wrapped in kindness. "If you embarrass my son," she said softly, "I will never forgive you." I let the silence sit between us. Then I replied equally soft, "If you were protecting him, you wouldn't be using him." Lorelai's eyes flashed. "Watch your mouth." I smiled. Not warm, precise. "Okay." Lorelai pushed her chair back and stood up abruptly. "You're emotional? You're acting out. I'm going to talk to Rhodes and calm him down." I didn't argue. I didn't stop her. I just watched her walk away, heels clicking like punctuation. As soon as she left, I stood up and went straight to my manager. I asked for the rest of the afternoon off. I did not tell her every detail. I didn't need to. I just said it was a personal emergency. Then I went back to my desk and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my bank. I asked them to place an extra verification step on my accounts, and I requested a note on my file that no joint applications were to be processed without in-person confirmation and identification. The second was to the credit bureaus. I locked my credit. I did it calmly, efficiently, like I was ordering office supplies. The third call was to a family law attorney I had found online. She answered with a voice that sounded like competence. I told her the truth carefully, not emotional, just facts. She listened, then said, "Bring every document you have. Do not sign anything. Do not agree verbally. And do not meet anyone alone." My throat tightened, but my voice stayed steady. "I'm supposed to meet a lender with my fiancé." She paused. "Good, go, but not as his partner. Go as a person protecting herself. If they intend to tie you to a loan, we stop it." Quietly. That word felt like power. That evening, Rhodes came to my apartment with his face already arranged into apology. He had flowers. Of course he did. Tulips. My favorite. The kind he remembered because I once mentioned them at a grocery store, and he liked being the man who noticed. He held them out like a shield. "Hadley, please." I opened the door wider and let him in. I did not hug him. I did not slam the door. I just stepped aside. Rhodes walked into the living room and looked around like he expected the space to accuse him. "We need to talk." I nodded. "We do." He tried to speak first, but I lifted one hand slightly. Not dramatic, just a quiet pause. "I'm going to say this once," I said, "and I need you to listen without interrupting." Rhodes swallowed. "Okay." I took a breath. "Your mother watched me. You watched me. You let someone take pictures of my car and my job. You let someone reduce my life into evidence. Then your mother put those papers in my purse to control me. And now there is a lender meeting where my presence is suddenly very convenient." Rhodes's eyes filled with tears. "It wasn't like that." I kept my voice calm. "Then tell me what it was like." Rhodes looked down. "I was scared." I nodded slowly. "I believe you were scared. I also believe you used fear as permission." His face crumpled. "Hadley, I love you." I held his gaze. "Love without respect is just appetite." He flinched like I slapped him. I didn't. I barely raised my voice. Rhodes started to talk fast. "My mom is drowning. She begged me. She said she'd lose everything. She said she'd lose the house. And then she started talking about how once we were married, it would be easier." I didn't want to drag you into it. I swear I didn't. I nodded again, calm. "Then why was my name on that envelope?" Rhodes's throat bobbed. "I didn't write it." I believed him. And that was the part that hurt, because it meant he wasn't the mastermind. He was the tool. Rhodes stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I stepped back. He froze. "Are you leaving me?" I didn't answer right away. I let the silence do its work. He stood in it, exposed, forced to hear himself. Finally, I said, "We're going to the lender meeting tomorrow." His eyes widened with relief, like he heard what he wanted to hear. Then I added, "And after that, I will decide what happens next." Rhodes nodded quickly. Okay, thank you." I watched him cling to the word thank you like it was a life raft. That night, I didn't sleep much. I didn't cry. I lay still, listening to the building settle, feeling every memory rearrange itself. How many moments were real? How many were managed? In the morning, we drove to the lender's office. Rhodes wore the suit I bought him for his work conference. He looked handsome. He looked like the kind of man people trusted. Lorelai was already there when we arrived. She hugged Rhodes first, long and tight, and when she hugged me, her arms were were gentler than before, as if softness could erase surveillance. "Sweetheart," she murmured. "I'm glad you're here." I smiled politely. "Okay." Lorelai's eyes flicked to Rhodes. I watched her silently hand him a folder, then watched him hide it under his arm like it was normal. We were led into a conference room. A bright table, a pitcher of water, pens lined up with precision. A man in a crisp shirt introduced himself and started talking about options, rates, refinancing, paperwork. Lorelai kept glancing at me like she was monitoring my breathing. Then the lender slid a packet across the table toward Rhodes. "We just need to confirm household information and potential future co-borrower details." Lorelai's gaze snapped to me. There it was, the moment she wanted, the moment she planned. Rhodes turned to me with a hopeful smile. "Hadley, it's just a formality. They just want to see stability." I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I took the pen. Lorelai's shoulders visibly loosened. And then I said calmly, "Before I sign anything, I have one question." The lender smiled. "Professional." "Of course." I turned the packet so I could see the page clearly. Then I looked up and asked in a steady voice, "Can you tell me why this application lists my name as an intended co-borrower when I have never given consent for my information to be used?" Lorelai's smile froze. Rhodes's face drained of color. "Hadley," I lifted one hand slightly. "Calm. Please, let him answer." The lender blinked. "It's listed here as anticipated marital consolidation." I nodded. "We are not married, and my credit is locked." Lorelai's breath caught in her throat. I watched her try to recover, try to shift blame into charm, but the lender's expression changed. It wasn't emotional. It was procedural. It was the face of someone who smelled risk. Rhodes's voice shook. "Hadley, why would you lock your credit?" I kept my eyes on the lender. "Because someone hired an investigator to watch me." The room went silent. Lorelai's head snapped toward me. "How dare you?" I didn't look at her. I didn't fight her directly. I just placed a folder of my own on the table and slid it toward the lender. Inside were copies of everything. The deed, the loan statement, the email chain, my note log, the investigator's confirmation about financial motivations. Even the ring clip screenshot Sloan had shown me, printed with the date saved from the group chat. I said, quiet and calm, "I'm not accusing anyone of a crime. I'm asking for clarity and protection." The lender's eyes skimmed the documents. His mouth tightened. Lorelai leaned forward, voice sharp. "This is private family business." The lender looked up. "This is a financial institution. If there is any possibility of coercion or misrepresentation, we pause everything." Lorelai's face flushed. "You can't do that." The lender's voice stayed calm. "I can, and I am." Rhodes stared at me like he didn't recognize me. "Hadley, you're ruining my mom." I finally looked at him. My voice didn't rise. "No, your mom did this to herself. I'm just refusing to carry it." Lorelai's hands shook on the table. "You think you're so smart." I nodded once. "I am careful." The lender stood. "I'm going to step out and consult with compliance. Please stay here." Lorelai snapped. "No, we're leaving." She grabbed her purse and stood, pulling Rhodes with her like a leash. Rhodes hesitated, eyes darting between his mother and me. I didn't beg him. I didn't chase him. I stayed seated. Lorelai leaned toward me, voice low and venomous. "If you walk away from this, you walk away from my son." I met her eyes and spoke softly, like I was talking to someone who couldn't hear truth unless it was quiet. "I'm not walking away from him," I said. "I'm walking away from you." Lorelai's eyes widened, then narrowed, then filled with a rage she couldn't show in a bank office. She turned and left the room with Rhodes behind her. The lender came back in a few minutes with another woman and a folder. They asked me to repeat, in plain words, that I did not consent to being added to any application and that I felt pressured. I did, calmly, clearly. They thanked me. They documented everything. They told me the application was suspended and that any future attempt to tie my information to it would require my direct, verified participation. When I walked outside, the air felt sharper, cleaner. Rhodes was waiting in the parking lot. His eyes were red. His hands were empty now. No folder, no flowers, no mask. "My mom is going to lose the house," he whispered. I kept my voice steady. "Then she should sell it, or downsize, or tell the truth to your father. But she doesn't get to use me." Rhodes shook his head, desperate. "I didn't want this." I nodded. "I believe you." He stepped closer. "Then don't leave." I took a breath. This was the part where a younger version of me would have softened, would have tried to save him from his mother, would have turned myself into a solution. Instead, I said, "I'm not marrying someone who lets fear turn into surveillance." His face crumpled. "Hadley, please." I reached into my purse and pulled out one last piece of paper, an envelope I had kept sealed until now. I handed it to him. "What is this?" he asked, voice shaking. "It's my ring," I said simply. "And a letter." Rhodes's eyes widened. "Hadley," I stepped back. "Read it when you're alone." He stared at me, stunned. "Are you doing this to punish me?" I shook my head slowly. "No, I'm doing this to protect me." Rhodes swallowed hard. "Will you ever forgive me?" I held his gaze, and for the first time all week, my voice carried the smallest crack of emotion. "Not weakness, just truth." "I can forgive," I said quietly, "but I can't trust what you were willing to do to feel safe." Rhodes stood frozen like he wanted to argue, but his own shame was louder than his words. I turned toward my car, then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It was a single sentence. I saved copies of everything too. "I am sorry." No name, no signature, but I knew who it was. The investigator. That was the small final twist that sealed it for me. The person hired to watch me had a conscience. The people who claimed to love me did not. I got in my car, started the engine, and drove away without looking back. A week later, I moved my things out quietly while Rhodes was at work. I left the apartment cleaner than I found it. I returned his spare key. I blocked Lorelai's number. I sent one calm email to Rhodes's father with attachments and a sentence that said, I hoped his family got help, but I would not be part of their financial plan. I did not expose them publicly. I just showed the truth to the right person. On the day my lease ended, I stood in my new place with boxes around me and sunlight on the floor. My hands were steady again. My mind was quiet. And the last thing I felt before the door clicked shut behind me was not heartbreak. It was relief. Now I am going to step out of the story for a minute and talk to you like a real person. What happened to me was not about love. It was about control. Some people do not ask for what they want. They arrange it. They manage you into a corner and call it family. And when you finally notice, they act like you are the problem for seeing it. The hardest part is how calm it looks from the outside. No yelling, no chaos, just paperwork, just small choices, just pressure that shows up as concern. That's why silence matters, not the silence that hides pain. The silence that buys you time to think. Because when you stay calm, you can hear the truth in the pauses. You can see who answers directly and who tries to steer you, and you learn something important. If someone needs to shrink you to feel secure, they were never offering you love. They were offering you a role. I did not win by shouting. I won by refusing to sign my life away, and I will never apologize for that.